Reborn is a Japanese action film. I saw the trailer on Facebook and it looked really interesting. They were calling it the Japanese John Wick. It is about a Toshiro. He is a convenience store worker who seems, unassuming at first, and he's got an adopted daughter. He feeds her and stuff, and he runs a convenience store, but it turns out he's actually a really badass super killer. And I think one of the biggest flaws of this movie is that they don't tell you at the beginning that the special fighters in this movie actually have like super strength and powers. They don't say that at all. So like at the end of the movie when he's like punching people and breaking necks and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, okay. The specialized fighters in this movie, there's a little bit of a sci-fi element that they don't tell you about, which is kind of a big flaw of the movie. But essentially Toshiro used to be like some sort of super killer, like a expert hand-to-hand combat expert, no one can get within like 2 feet with him without him taking you apart with super speed and strength and agility. So he's ever since retired, and one day while he's walking home, he gets attacked by 2 assassins, and he finds out that his old boss is after him and starts sending a slew of assassin killers to take him out and then eventually kidnap his adopted daughter. So this movie doesn't have the greatest story. It's a very simple, super soldier, retired, has to go back into the fray, has to fight another guy, and the movie excels when he's fighting a sub-boss of sorts. When he's fighting a specialized fighter, it's more interesting because they actually put up a fight. However, the second half, not even the second half, the last hour of the movie is literally all action to the point where it becomes really repetitive and lame. You'll have swarms of henchmen not shooting him because they have orders not to. They're trying to take him out with knives. He just basically walks into them and they all fall down. It starts turning into a really cartoonish, comic booky kind of story. So instead of like an intense action thriller, it just feels like he's cutting through them all with extreme ease. There's no sense of attrition that they're wearing him down or he's getting tired. He just walks into them, they all fall down, and it ends up being kind of crappy. It can also be comparable to some of the action scenes in John Wick. A lot of people enjoy those films, but I don't like the scenes where John Wick runs into like a room and kills like 20 guys because it feels really unrealistic. And it's awesome to see him rack up a huge kill count, but it also takes realism out the window, and I prefer the John Wick action scenes in which he's fighting a specialized fighter or taking on someone who can give him a bit of a fight. So this movie's the same way. The storyline isn't that amazing either. Also, some of the shall we say, narrative choices are kind of weird. Basically, the main character always fights like this. All of the specialized fighters fight like this. It's really weird. And then he also always does this like shoulder kind of cracking thing to loosen himself up, and that makes him faster or something. So it feels a little ridiculous at times, like a B movie. But overall, the action sequences are okay if you're just in for a turn your brain off kind of action movie. But it's definitely not, pushing the boundary for Japanese action cinema. It just feels like a, couple of action choreographers decide to get together and do a movie and not really care that much about the story or characters. But that's not a big deal. So I give Reborn a 4 out of 10.